When we think about rebuilding ourselves, the first instinct might be to focus on strength, determination, and fortitude. But the foundation of all meaningful transformation is vulnerability. It's a word that makes many of us uncomfortable because it's often misunderstood as weakness. But vulnerability is far from weakness. It's our most accurate measure of courage. To rebuild yourself, you must first confront the parts of you that feel unsteady, uncertain, or even broken. Vulnerability asks you to stand in the rawness of your emotions, the weight of your fears, and the depth of your truths. It is about opening yourself to the possibility of being seen, truly seen, not just for your strengths and successes, but for your doubts, your scars, and your imperfections. Imagine vulnerability as standing at the edge of a cliff. The view is breathtaking, but the height is terrifying. You don't know if the ground beneath your feet is stable, and yet you must take a step forward. That step, the willingness to embrace uncertainty and risk, is the essence of vulnerability, and it's the first step toward meaningful change. Rebuilding yourself means acknowledging the moments when you fell short, the relationships that didn't work out, the goals you didn't achieve. It means sitting with the discomfort of what if, and if only, without turning away. Vulnerability doesn't mean wallowing in regret. It means allowing those feelings to surface, honoring them as part of your experience, and using them as fuel for growth. But let's be honest, being vulnerable is terrifying. It means admitting that you don't have it all figured out. It means risking rejection, failure, or criticism. And yet, in those very risks lies the potential for connection, creativity, and innovation. Vulnerability cracks us open, but it's through those cracks that light enters. I think about the times in your life when you truly grew. Was it during moments of comfort and certainty, or was it during times of challenge and discomfort? Growth happens when you allow yourself to be vulnerable enough to fail, to try again, and to keep moving forward. It's in the act of saying, I don't know what comes next, but I'm willing to try, that you reclaim your power. Vulnerability also means asking for help when you need it. Rebuilding doesn't mean doing it all alone. It means reaching out, sharing your struggles, and allowing others to support you. It's the courage to say, I can't do this by myself. And in doing so, you create space for connection and shared humanity. And let's not forget, vulnerability is messy. It doesn't come with guarantees or perfect outcomes. It's not a straight line from point A to point B. It's a process of trial and error, of learning and unlearning. But in that messiness lies beauty. Vulnerability strips away the facades and forces you to confront your most authentic self. Rebuilding yourself is an act of courage. It's not just about starting anew, it's about stepping into the unknown, facing the fears that have held you back, and daring to believe that transformation is possible. Courage isn't the absence of fear, it's the willingness to move forward despite it. It's the quiet resolve to say, this matters to me even when the odds feel insurmountable. Courage often starts small in moments that might seem insignificant at first glance. It's in the decision to take the first step toward a goal that feels daunting. It's in the conversation you've been avoiding because you're afraid of what you might hear. It's in the act of looking in the mirror and admitting what you truly want, even if it scares you. These small acts of courage are the seeds of larger transformation. But courage is not a single act, it's a practice. It's waking up each day and choosing to show up for yourself, even when it's easier to retreat. It's standing tall in the face of criticism, knowing that your worth isn't determined by someone else's opinion. It's daring to dream, to hope, and to try again after failure. Courage asks us to risk vulnerability, to step outside our comfort zones, and to embrace uncertainty as part of the journey. When you cultivate courage, you also cultivate resilience. Courage and resilience are partners in the process of rebuilding. Courage propels you forward, and resilience helps you bounce back when the path gets rough. Together, they create a foundation that can weather the storms of change and keep you moving toward your vision. Courage requires us to confront fear, but it also asks us to reframe it. Fear is not the enemy, it's a signal. It tells us that we're stepping into territory that matters. It's a sign that we're pushing beyond the familiar and into the realm of growth. The goal isn't to eliminate fear, but to build a relationship with it, to let it walk beside you rather than stop you in your tracks. Sometimes courage looks like a bold leap, but more often it's a quiet persistence. It's the willingness to try again after a setback, to seek solutions when the path forward seems unclear, and to trust that your efforts will bear fruit, even if you can't see the results immediately. Courage is not always loud. Sometimes it's a whisper, a gentle nudge to keep going. Rebuilding yourself in 2025 also calls for the courage to let go. Letting go of old habits, limiting beliefs, or relationships that no longer serve you is one of the hardest but most necessary acts of bravery. It's about releasing the familiar to make room for the new, even when that newness feels uncertain. Letting go isn't a sign of weakness, it's an affirmation of your strength to choose what aligns with your growth. Courage also demands self-compassion. It means giving yourself grace in moments when you falter and recognizing that failure is not the end of the road, but a stepping stone. It's the courage to forgive yourself for past mistakes and to believe that you are worthy of a fresh start. Self-compassion fuels courage by reminding you that you are not defined by your setbacks, but by your ability to rise again. At its core, cultivating courage is about alignment, aligning your actions with your values, your choices with your aspirations, and your daily habits with the vision you have for your life. Courage is the bridge between who you are and who you're becoming. It's the energy that propels you to act even when the path ahead feels uncertain, the voice that says, keep going, you're worth it. Rebuilding yourself begins with owning your story, the full, unfiltered truth of where you've been, who you are, and the journey that has brought you to this moment. Your story is your foundation. It carries the weight of your experiences, the lessons learned from your failures, and the triumphs you've celebrated along the way. To rebuild yourself, you must first embrace the narrative of your life, not as a polished highlight reel, but as the authentic, messy, and profoundly human experience that it is. Owning your story requires radical honesty. It means looking at your past without denial or distortion. It's about acknowledging the choices you've made, both good and bad, and recognizing their role in shaping the person you've become. It's about sitting with the parts of your story that feel heavy or unresolved, the mistakes, the regrets, the missed opportunities, and resisting the urge to bury them under the guise of perfection. Your story doesn't have to be flawless to be worth telling. In fact, it's often the imperfections that hold the most meaning. When you own your story, you reclaim your power. So often we let shame or fear dictate how we present ourselves to the world. We hide the parts of ourselves that feel unworthy or incomplete, creating a fragmented sense of identity. But the truth is, every chapter of your story matters, even the ones you wish you could rewrite. When you take ownership of your narrative, you take control of the pen. You decide how to frame your experiences, how to find meaning in the struggles, and how to use those lessons as stepping stones toward your future. Owning your story also means refusing to let others define it for you. There will always be people who project their judgments, expectations, or assumptions onto your life. But their version of your story is not your truth. You are the only one who truly knows the depth of your experiences, the weight of your challenges, and the resilience it took to overcome them. Owning your story is an act of defiance against the narratives that others try to impose. It's a declaration that your life is yours to define. One of the most transformative aspects of owning your story is the self-acceptance it fosters. When you stop running from your past or pretending to be someone you're not, you create space for authenticity. You allow yourself to show up as you are without the burden of pretense. This authenticity not only strengthens your relationship with yourself, but also deepens your connections with others. When you own your story, you give others permission to do the same. Your story is not just about the past, it's also a tool for navigating the future. By examining where you've been, you gain clarity about where you want to go. Each experience, no matter how painful or challenging, carries a lesson, a breadcrumb on the path toward your growth. Owning your story means honoring those lessons and using them as a compass to guide your rebuilding process. Owning your story also requires vulnerability. It's about being willing to share parts of yourself that might feel raw or uncomfortable. This doesn't mean you have to broadcast every detail of your life to the world, but it does mean being honest with yourself and, when appropriate, with others. Vulnerability transforms your story from a source of shame to a source of connection. When you share your truth, you create a bridge for others to relate to you, to see themselves in your experiences, and to feel less alone. Sometimes owning your story means rewriting parts of it, not in the sense of erasing the past, but in the sense of reinterpreting it. The way you choose to view your experiences has immense power. You can frame failures as opportunities for growth, hardships as tests of resilience, and losses as reminders of what truly matters. By reframing your story, you shift from being a passive character to the author of your life. Owning your story is not about dwelling on the past, but about integrating it. It's about understanding that every chapter, every moment has contributed to your growth. Even the most difficult parts of your story carry the seeds of wisdom and strength. By embracing your narrative in its entirety, you build a solid foundation for the person you are becoming. Rebuilding yourself requires resilience, the capacity to face adversity, adapt to challenges, and emerge stronger than before. Resilience is not about avoiding hardship or pretending everything is fine. It's about acknowledging the storms in your life while finding ways to weather them. It's the ability to bend without breaking, to struggle without losing hope, and to move forward despite setbacks. Resilience begins with self-awareness. It's about recognizing your emotions during difficult times, fear, anger, sadness, frustration, and allowing yourself to feel them. Bottling up emotions or denying their existence doesn't build strength, it creates pressure that will eventually erupt. Resilience grows when you honor your feelings as valid and necessary parts of the human experience. It's about finding healthy ways to process those emotions rather than letting them define you. At its core, resilience is about perspective. It's not just what happens to you, but how you interpret and respond to it. Life will always throw challenges your way, but your mindset determines whether those challenges become barriers or stepping stones. Building resilience means shifting your focus from why is this happening to me to what can I learn from this. This shift doesn't diminish the pain of difficult experiences, but it allows you to find meaning in them. Resilience is also deeply rooted in adaptability. Life is unpredictable, and the ability to adjust to changing circumstances is a hallmark of resilient people. This doesn't mean giving up on your goals or dreams, it means being flexible in how you approach them. Sometimes the path you envision may no longer be viable, and resilience is what helps you pivot without losing sight of what matters most. To build resilience, you must cultivate a strong sense of self. Resilient people know their values, their strengths, and their purpose. This self-knowledge acts as an anchor during turbulent times, reminding you of who you are and what you stand for. When life feels chaotic, your inner sense of stability can keep you grounded. Resilience isn't built in isolation. Relationships play a crucial role in how we cope with adversity. Having a network of supportive people, friends, family, mentors, or even a community provides a safety net when you need it most. It's not about depending on others to solve your problems, but about leaning on them for encouragement, perspective, and companionship. Resilience is strengthened in connection, where we find understanding and shared strength. Another vital aspect of resilience is self-care. You cannot face challenges effectively if you're running on empty. Building resilience means prioritizing your physical, emotional, and mental well-being. It's about getting enough sleep, eating nourishing food, moving your body, and taking time to recharge. Self-care is not a luxury, it's a necessity for maintaining the energy and focus needed to navigate life's difficulties. Resilience also involves the ability to set boundaries. Protecting your energy and saying no to what drains you are acts of self-preservation, not selfishness. It's about recognizing your limits and understanding that you can't pour from an empty cup. Boundaries create the space needed to focus on what truly matters, allowing you to recover and rebuild. Failure and setbacks are inevitable parts of life, but resilience transforms them into opportunities for growth. Building resilience means developing a mindset that sees failure not as a dead end, but as a learning experience. Every misstep is a chance to refine your approach, strengthen your resolve, and try again. Resilient people don't fear failure, they embrace it as part of the journey. Resilience also requires patience. Rebuilding yourself doesn't happen overnight. It's a process of small, consistent steps rather than grand, sweeping changes. Patience allows you to celebrate progress, however incremental, and to trust that each effort brings you closer to your goals. It reminds you that setbacks are temporary and that perseverance is the key to long-term growth. Gratitude is another powerful tool for building resilience. Even in the midst of challenges, finding moments of appreciation can shift your perspective and boost your emotional strength. Gratitude doesn't mean ignoring the hard parts of life, it means balancing them with an awareness of the good. It's about noticing the beauty in small moments, the kindness in others, and the progress you've made. Ultimately, resilience is about hope. It's the belief that no matter how difficult life gets, there is a way forward. It's the inner voice that says, this is hard, but I can handle it. I've faced challenges before, and I'll overcome this too. Hope fuels resilience by reminding you that better days are possible, even when the present feels overwhelming. Rebuilding yourself is not a solitary journey. It is one enriched and supported by the connections you cultivate with others. Strengthening connections means investing in the relationships that matter, nurturing a sense of belonging, and creating a network of mutual support and understanding. It is through these connections that we find the strength, encouragement, and perspective needed to navigate life's challenges and build a more fulfilling future. Strengthening connections begins with vulnerability. True connection happens when we allow ourselves to be seen, not just for our successes and strengths, but for our fears, struggles, and imperfections. It's about dropping the facade of perfection and embracing the courage to say, I need help, I made a mistake, or simply, this is who I am. Vulnerability invites others to do the same, creating a foundation of trust and authenticity that strengthens relationships. In a world that often prioritizes busyness and productivity, building and maintaining connections requires intentionality. It's not enough to wait for meaningful relationships to happen. They must be actively cultivated. This means carving out time to nurture the bonds you have with friends, family, colleagues, or community members. It's about showing up not just physically, but emotionally and mentally and being present in your interactions. A simple act of attentiveness, like listening without distractions or offering a genuine compliment, can strengthen a connection more than grand gestures ever could. Empathy is a cornerstone of strong connections. To truly connect with others, you must be willing to step into their shoes, to understand their feelings, and to see the world from their perspective. Empathy creates a bridge between people, allowing you to meet them where they are and support them in meaningful ways. It fosters compassion, reduces judgment, and deepens the bond between individuals. Strengthening connections isn't just about being heard, it's about listening with an open heart and a willingness to understand. Strong connections thrive on reciprocity. Healthy relationships are not one-sided, they involve a balance of giving and receiving. It's about being there for others when they need you and allowing them to be there for you in return. This mutual exchange of support creates a sense of equality and trust that reinforces the relationship over time. Recognizing and appreciating the ways others contribute to your life and expressing gratitude for it further solidifies these bonds. Boundaries play an essential role in strengthening connections. While the idea of boundaries might seem counterintuitive to building closeness, they are vital for maintaining healthy relationships. Clear boundaries communicate your needs, respect your limits, and protect your emotional well-being. They also help others understand how to interact with you in ways that foster trust and respect. Boundaries are not walls that keep people out, they are guidelines that ensure relationships are sustainable and nourishing. Strengthening connections also means letting go of relationships that no longer serve your growth. Not all connections are meant to last forever, and some can even hinder your ability to rebuild yourself. Recognizing when a relationship has become toxic or one-sided is a courageous act of self-respect. It creates space for healthier, more meaningful connections to take root. Communities are powerful sources of connection. Whether it's a group of like-minded individuals who share your passions, a local organization that aligns with your values, or simply a supportive group of friends, communities provide a sense of belonging that is vital for personal growth. Being part of a community reminds you that you are not alone in your struggles or aspirations. It offers encouragement, accountability, and shared wisdom that can amplify your efforts to rebuild yourself. Forgiveness is another essential aspect of strengthening connections. No relationship is without its challenges, and there will be times when misunderstandings or mistakes create tension. Forgiveness doesn't mean condoning harmful behavior, but it does mean releasing resentment and choosing to prioritize the relationship over the conflict. It's an act of grace that allows both parties to move forward with greater understanding and empathy. Strengthening connections also involves celebrating the people in your life. Too often, we take our relationships for granted, assuming that others know how much we care. Taking the time to express appreciation, to acknowledge the impact someone has had on your life, or to simply say, "I'm grateful for you," can transform a relationship. These small acts of recognition and gratitude create a ripple effect, deepening the bond and fostering a sense of mutual respect and admiration. Technology has made it easier than ever to stay connected, but meaningful relationships still require effort. Strengthening connections means being mindful of the quality of your interactions, not just the quantity. A heartfelt phone call, a handwritten note, or a shared experience can carry far more weight than a quick text or social media like. It's about prioritizing depth over convenience and making the effort to connect in ways that truly matter. Strong connections provide a sense of security and stability, but they also challenge us to grow. The people who care about you will encourage you to step out of your comfort zone, to pursue your dreams, and to become the best version of yourself. They hold up a mirror that reflects not only your strengths, but also the areas where you can improve. Strengthening connections is about embracing these challenges as opportunities for mutual growth. Rebuilding yourself requires a commitment to authenticity, living in alignment with who you truly are, rather than who the world expects you to be. Authenticity is not about striving for perfection or conforming to societal ideals. It's about embracing your individuality, owning your truth, and showing up as your whole, unapologetic self. It's a journey of self-discovery and self-expression that demands courage, vulnerability, and consistency. Authenticity begins with self-awareness. To live authentically, you must first know yourself, your values, passions, strengths, and limitations. This requires taking an honest look inward, free from the filters of external judgment or approval. It means asking yourself the hard questions: what do I truly want? What do I believe in? What brings me joy, fulfillment, and purpose? The answers may not come easily or quickly, but the process of seeking them is foundational to authenticity. Committing to authenticity also means embracing your imperfections. Society often pressures us to present a flawless image to the world, to hide our struggles and insecurities. But true authenticity lies in accepting and celebrating the parts of yourself that are messy, complicated, or unconventional. It's about recognizing that your imperfections are not weaknesses, but unique facets of your humanity. And when you embrace your flaws, you give yourself permission to grow, evolve, and thrive without the burden of unrealistic expectations. Living authentically requires the courage to let go of who you think you're supposed to be and embrace who you are. This can be a daunting task, especially in a world that often rewards conformity. It may mean challenging the status quo, questioning cultural norms, or resisting the urge to fit into a mold that doesn't align with your truth. It's about prioritizing your inner voice over the noise of external opinions, even when doing so feels uncomfortable or risky. Authenticity is not just about self-expression, it's also about self-respect. It means setting boundaries that protect your energy, time, and emotional well-being. It means saying no to what doesn't align with your values and yes to what does, even if it disappoints others. Living authentically requires you to honor your needs and desires rather than sacrificing them to meet someone else's expectations. Being authentic doesn't mean you're always confident or fearless. It means you're willing to show up even when you feel uncertain or vulnerable. It's about sharing your truth, not because it guarantees approval or understanding, but because it's an integral part of who you are. Authenticity invites connection because it allows others to see the real you, not a curated version of yourself. It fosters trust, intimacy, and mutual respect in your relationships. Committing to authenticity also means living in alignment with your values. Your actions, decisions, and priorities should reflect what truly matters to you. This alignment creates a sense of integrity and purpose that grounds you, even in the face of challenges. It's about ensuring that the life you're building is one that feels meaningful and true to who you are. Authenticity requires vulnerability, and vulnerability is not easy. It involves taking risks, such as speaking your mind, pursuing unconventional paths, or standing up for your beliefs. It means being willing to face rejection, criticism, or misunderstanding. But the alternative, hiding your true self, comes at a greater cost. It leads to feelings of disconnection, dissatisfaction, and a sense that you're living someone else's life. One of the most liberating aspects of authenticity is the freedom it brings. When you commit to living authentically, you free yourself from the exhausting task of maintaining a facade. You no longer feel the need to seek validation from others because you've learned to validate yourself. You stop comparing yourself to others because you understand that your journey is uniquely your own. This freedom allows you to live with a sense of ease and confidence that is deeply fulfilling. Authenticity is a continuous process, not a one-time decision. It requires ongoing self-reflection, honesty, and intentionality. There will be moments when you stray from your authentic self, whether due to fear, pressure, or uncertainty. In those moments, authenticity invites you to pause, reflect, and recalibrate. It's not about perfection, but about the commitment to keep returning to your truth. Living authentically also means allowing yourself to change. Authenticity is not about rigidly clinging to one version of yourself. It's about evolving in ways that align with your growth. As you learn, experience, and adapt, your understanding of yourself may shift. Committing to authenticity means honoring that evolution and embracing the person you are becoming. Authenticity inspires others. When you live in alignment with your truth, you create a ripple effect that encourages those around you to do the same. Your courage to be yourself can give others the permission they need to embrace their own uniqueness. Authenticity is a gift, not just to yourself, but to the world. It adds depth, color, and meaning to your interactions, creating a richer and more connected experience of life. This speech, Rebuild Yourself in 2025, explores transformative principles for personal growth and renewal. It emphasizes embracing vulnerability, cultivating courage, owning your story, building resilience, strengthening connections, and committing to authenticity. Each pillar guides individuals to confront challenges, foster meaningful relationships, and live with purpose. By encouraging self-awareness, vulnerability, and alignment with core values, the speech inspires a journey of intentional change. It's a call to action to embrace imperfection, foster connection, and rebuild a life true to oneself.